chillin' like a villain. I go by the name of the Illmatic one, NAS. Yo, I'm straight out of Queensbridge projects. Been around for a little while, long enough to see how I would get down in the street. Growing up here, and seeing my man that lived upstairs getting killed, and then my brother shot. Like, you know what I'm saying? That showed me what type of world this shit is, you know what I'm saying? I'm not a big drug dealer with 25 years on my head. I sing rap records and I can make my bread.
It's the hood, it's where we from, man. That's what made me. This block is what raised me right here. All my inspiration came from right here.
It's been a whopping 30 years since Nas burst onto the scene with his debut album, Illmatic, and man, did he change the game. Illmatic wasn't just another album. It was a masterclass in hip-hop lyricism, painting an incredibly detailed and raw picture of his life in Queensbridge, the biggest housing project in New York.
It drops deep as it does in my breath. I never sleep, cause sleep is the cousin of death.
As MC Shan once said, Queensbridge is where stars are born. It's not just a birthplace for Nas and other rap legends like Mobb Deep and Marley Marl, it's the heart and soul behind their sound.
Music is all about street life, you know what I'm saying? The ups and the downs, the good times, the bad times, you know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? We talking about the drug game, you know, how people getting killed, how we can better ourselves and further your mind, you know what I'm saying?
Let's take a trip back to 1939, when the Queensbridge housing projects opened their doors. Just south of the iconic Queensboro Bridge that connects Manhattan to Queens, this massive public housing project remains the largest in the United States. It's home to a diverse community of families, all drawn by the lure of affordable living. Queensbridge isn't just one big building, it's actually two Y-shaped structures. You've got the south houses on the 41st Street side and the north houses on the 40th Street side where Nas grew up and honed his craft.
So what up? This is where we used to hang out, you know what I mean? This is my building right here. It just look different though. It used to look all toe up out here. They try to clean it up a little something, you know what I mean? Right here, 4016.
Fast forward to 2012, and a feature by WNYC shed some light on how the neighborhood evolved over the years. Less than a decade after its 1940 opening, Queensbridge saw a demographic shift. The number of white residents dwindled while the black population grew steadily, marking a significant change in the community's makeup. As WNYC highlighted, the New York City Housing Authority, NYCHA, and the city were among the rare places in America back then where the projects weren't segregated. However, opportunities were still limited for black families, especially with the 1944 GI Bill offering low-cost homeownership in the suburbs, a dream that was often out of reach due to rampant discrimination. As we rolled into the 1960s, public housing became more accessible to the poor. The 1971 Escalera Decree made it tougher for the NYCHA to kick out tenants who broke the rules, and the project soon became a hotbed for crime and the drug trade. The 1970s and 1980s were rough times for Queensbridge, setting the stage for the hip-hop talents that would emerge from its gritty streets.
Music is all about street life, you know what I'm saying? The ups and the downs, the good times, the bad times, you know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? We talking about the drug game, you know, how people getting killed, how we can better ourselves and further your mind, you know what I'm saying?
Since the 1980s, Queensbridge has been like hip-hop's unlikely Garden of Eden. No other NYCHA project has churned out as much rap talent. While Nas's name will always be synonymous with Queensbridge, he was standing on the shoulders of giants who came before him. Marley Marl and MC Shan were pioneers of that era, laying the groundwork for the legendary Juice Crew, which included Queensbridge natives like Roxanne Shanty, Craig G, and a young tragedy Gaddafi. They penned the first anthem for Queensbridge, The Bridge, but ended up losing a legendary battle against Boogie Down Productions from the Bronx.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got MC Shan and Marley Marl in the house tonight.
Here's Roxanne Shante and Roxanne's Revenge.
My name is Roxanne. Don't you know I just a cold rocker party and I do this show. I said I'm a DC.
Hit me. I'm backing down with the 50-50. There had to been a thug in me. The tunnel banging, come and get me.
Speak the wrong words to man and you will get touched. We are bringing the intense.
Stung by KRS-One's lyrical jabs on The Bridge Is Over, Queensbridge's hip-hop scene went quiet, biding its time for someone worthy to reclaim its throne.
Brooklyn keeps on taking it, Bronx keeps creating it, and Queens keeps on faking it.
Enter NAS, who many see as the messiah that breathed new life into Queensbridge's fading hip-hop scene. He told MTV News back in 2007, "I was coming from the legacy of Marley Marl, MC Shan, Juice Crew kind of vibe. At that time, the Queensbridge scene was dead. Dropping Illmatic right there said a lot for me to carry on the legacy of the Queensbridge pioneers. But Nas wasn't just another rapper from the projects, he was something special. As a 17-year-old, his verse on Main Source's Live at the BBQ left everyone stunned. His talent was on another level, far beyond his predecessors. Nas didn't just continue the Queensbridge legacy. He carved out his own and set a new standard for hip-hop. He's not just a part of the history, he's the one who rewrote it.
But you know, it's the hood, it's where we from, man. That's what made me, this block is what raised me right here. All my inspiration came from right here.
Great filmmakers have a knack for making their settings come alive. Think of how Spike Lee or Woody Allen bring New York City to life in their movies. It's like the city itself is another character in the story. Nas does something similar with his debut album, Illmatic, transforming the Queensbridge houses into a living, breathing entity that's as much a part of the album as he is. Through the album's 9 tracks, Nas narrates the story of Queensbridge, which was reeling from the effects of the crack epidemic in New York City. In an interview with Zane Lowe, Nas described the era, saying, "We were recovering from the roaring 80s. It was a time when big brands like Nike and Adidas were just taking off, the economy was tanking, and drugs and guns flooded the streets. Illmatic captures the gritty reality of those days, kind of like the movie New Jack City. But Nas tells the story in his own unique poetic style.
Growing up here and seeing my man that lived upstairs getting killed and then my brother shot, like, you know what I'm saying, that showed me what type of world this shit is, you know what I'm saying?
The album kicks off with The Genesis, a track that's like a mini biography of Nas's early life. It's a montage that features snippets of dialogue between Nas, his brother Jungle, and AZ, and even includes a sample from the classic hip-hop movie Wild Style. This track sets the stage for the rest of the album, which is like Nas's personal version of the Book of Genesis, an ode to his humble beginnings in the Queensbridge projects.
When it's real, you doing this even without a record contract, you know what I'm saying?
On the opening track, NY State of Mind, Nas describes the reckless mindset he developed after a lifetime of living in a maze full of black rats trapped. The Gap Band sample on Life's a Bee might sound upbeat, but it contrasts with the lyrics, where both Nas and AZ express a deep sense of hopelessness. It's like they've accepted that life in the projects is like serving a life sentence.
Bullet holes left in my peak holes. I'm suited up with street clothes. Hand me a 9 and out.
Then there's The World Is Yours, a track inspired by the movie Scarface. Here, Nas talks about trying to escape the struggles of inner-city life, navigating through the rotten apple of New York City while dodging all sorts of dangers. It's a song about hope and striving for the American dream despite the odds.
The world is yours. The world is yours.
This leads into One Love, which is like a heartfelt letter to a friend in jail, followed by One Time for Your Mind, a track that captures the vibe of kicking back and enjoying the moment. Represent deals with the challenges of being a young person caught between the law and the streets, while It Ain't Hard to Tell showcases Nas's skills and confidence as a rapper. One of the most vivid tracks on the album is Memory Lane, Sittin' in the Park. Nas opens with the line, "I rap for listeners, blunt heads, fly ladies, and prisoners," proclaiming himself as the voice of the ghetto. DJ Premier's smooth production adds to the nostalgia as Nas paints a picture of life in Queensbridge, talking about everything from violence and drugs to dice games and pouring out liquor in memory of friends who've passed. His calm and insightful delivery makes it feel like you're right there with him, sitting on a park bench in Queensbridge. Queensbridge. Back in those days, Queensbridge was like a breeding ground for all sorts of societal issues. Nas was a keen observer, taking in all the chaos around him and turning it into art. He of his friend Willie Ill Will Graham, clashes with the police, and the legends of notorious gangsters like Alberto Alpo Martinez, Lorenzo, Fat Cat Nichols, and the Supreme Team. Nas delivers these stories with such detail that it's like looking at old sepia-toned photographs. Nas has always said that his environment was the real writer of Illmatic. I was just an instrument in the middle, he told Zane Lowe. New York wrote that album, Queensbridge specifically. In this album, Nas serves as the bridge between what was happening in the projects and the rest of the world. This idea is also reflected in the album's cover art, which features a young Nas, his face superimposed over a shot of the Queensbridge houses. It's meant to symbolize him looking out at the world as he starts to understand and process his surroundings.
And I'm the only one, so I gotta represent for us and what we all going through together.
Nas reminisced to MTV News in 1994 about the iconic image on the cover of Illmatic. That picture is of me when I was just 7 years old, he said. It was the year I started really paying attention to the world around me. That's when everything started to click. I began to imagine a future for myself and realized I needed to do things the right way. The ghetto environment where he grew up in the Queensbridge houses forced him to be reflective and strategic. The ghetto makes you think, Nas explained. Back then, I really believed that my world was confined to my project buildings. If I left and something happened to me, I thought nobody would care. I'd just be another statistic. The projects were my entire universe until I realized there was so much more beyond them. This theme of growth and awareness is reflected in the cover art of his first 4 albums.
Right here, this is the picture behind all my albums. If you see a face of me as a child, this is the picture behind it. This one right here, and that strip where I used to hang out, and all of this over here, where I used to hang.
For Nas, the album covers trace a journey. Starting with the thoughtful young Nas on Illmatic, the image evolved with each release. It Was Written shows a man who has seen the world and learned from it. Transforms him into a pharaoh, and Nostradamus presents him as a prophet. The concept remains constant. Nas facing the world with the Queensbridge houses, a symbol of his roots and identity, in the background. On the 15th anniversary of Illmatic, Nas shared with Rob Markman, I needed to be the guy with the projects behind me, literally and figuratively. I wanted to represent where I came from. Just like hip-hop itself, Nas and his groundbreaking album are products of the Noicha projects. Hip-hop's origins trace back to a Bronx apartment nurtured by DJ Kool Herc and honed in the city's parks. Similarly, Nas's talent developed through countless hours of observation and participation in the Queensbridge community. I'm straight out of the Queensbridge projects, he told MTV shortly after Illmatic dropped. I've been around long enough to see the good and the bad in the streets. Growing up, I'd hear the music blasting from the jams out my window. When I got old enough, I started going to those jams, soaking up the vibes and learning how to make music myself. Nas turned these experiences into the lyrical vignettes that form Illmatic. The album is a vivid tapestry of life in the ghetto, painted with Nas's keen observations of the chaos and struggle around him.
I'm not a big drug dealer with 25 years on my head. I sing rap records and I can make my bread.
Through his words, Nas turned the stark realities of Queensbridge into something beautiful. His portrayal of the harsh environment was so captivating that it transformed him into a legend. 2 decades later, this artistic achievement earned him the privilege of performing Illmatic at the prestigious Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., accompanied by the National Symphony Orchestra. The album not only cemented Nas's status as a hip-hop icon, but also breathed new life into the Queensbridge rap scene, paving the way for artists like Mobb Deep, Cormega, and Nature. Nas wasn't the first to rap about Queensbridge, but no one had ever captured it with the depth and skill that he did on Illmatic. Illmatic helped establish the Queensbridge houses as a cultural landmark in hip-hop, a testament to the strength and creativity that can arise from the most challenging circumstances. Nas immortalized his neighborhood through his music, and as he famously rapped on Life's a Bee, time is Illmatic. Now let's take a deeper look into the life of the man who helped put Queensbridge on the map. Nas, born in 1973, comes from a musical family that practically has rhythm in its DNA. His father, Olu Dara, was a jack-of-all-trades in the music world, a singer and jazz cornetist who brought a lot of soul into their home. His grandfather, a talented performer, was part of the Melodiers, a popular group that traveled across the U.S. during the challenging times of segregation. This rich musical background definitely set the stage for Nas's journey in the world of hip-hop, growing up in the Queensbridge houses, which is famously known as the largest public housing project in the U.S. Nas lived with his parents and his little brother Jungle. The family dynamics were interesting. His father was a well-traveled man whose adventures in the Navy and musical career added a worldly flair to their upbringing. He would share captivating stories with Nas and Jungle, opening their eyes to a world beyond the confines of their neighborhood. These tales weren't just bedtime stories, they were windows to a bigger, more complex world, providing Nas and his brother with insights that sparked their curiosity and imagination. But it wasn't just about the stories. Olu Dara also created a sanctuary of knowledge within their home. He had a personal library filled with a wide variety of books, offering a safe haven where Nas and Jungle could escape the urban chaos and dive into different worlds. This environment fueled their hunger for learning and helped them gain a deeper understanding of the complexities of life outside Queensbridge. Nas's mom, on the other hand, was the rock of the family. She worked tirelessly at the post office to provide for her kids and was well known in the neighborhood for her amazing cooking skills. She was dedicated to keeping Nas and Jungle on the right path, steering them away from the temptations of street life. Her love and determination played a huge role in shaping Nas into the person he became.
Yeah, my mother taught me not to play in the streets. Since I was a baby, like a little kid, 3 years old. Yo, don't play with none of these suckers and stuff. Yeah. And she was like that, and I was like that to the max.
From a young age, Nas showed a keen interest in music. At just 4 years old, he would spend his days playing the trumpet alongside drummers outside their building. His father, however, eventually asked him to put the trumpet down for a while because he was concerned that Nas's lips weren't mature enough and could be adversely affected. This didn't stop Nas from exploring other interests, though. By the time he was 7, he was already getting into rhyming, waking up his brother every morning to share the latest bars he'd come up with the night before. His passion for rap only grew from there. When Nas was around 9 years old, he and his best friend, Ill Will, who also lived upstairs and was his first DJ, started recording tapes together. They would wait for Will's mom to leave for work and then turn her living room into their makeshift studio. Those early days of experimentation and collaboration laid the foundation for Nas's future in music.
Been writing rhymes since I was like 9 years old, dedicated to the music, to the heart.
By the time he was 12, Nas had become a huge fan of MC Shan, thanks to Ill Will introducing him to the song The Bridge, produced by Marley Marl. This track quickly became an anthem in Queensbridge, and Nas was hooked. Not long after, KRS-One and Boogie Down Productions released the track South Bronx, sparking the legendary bridge war between South Bronx and Queensbridge over the true birthplace of hip-hop. This musical rivalry, along with the songs he listened to during his teens, had a significant impact on Nas, fueling his desire to pursue a rap career seriously. Another pivotal moment in Nas's journey was when he first heard Rakim rap on tracks like My Melody and Eric B. as President. He remembers vividly how his entire neighborhood in Queensbridge would come together to dance in unison to the music, performing moves like the WAP. This sense of community and the power of music left a lasting impression on him, further solidifying his ambition to make it in the rap game. Initially, Nas was somewhat interested in school, but as he moved into junior high, his enthusiasm started to wane. This disinterest led to some trouble, culminating in his expulsion. He reflects on this turbulent period in his song John Blaze, recalling how he used to pack a number 2 pencil to tease students. By the time he was in 8th grade, his academic performance had taken a nosedive, coinciding with his parents' divorce. This was a tough time for Nas, especially since his father left and moved to Harlem. Despite the challenges, Nas and his brother Jungle would visit their father in Harlem, where they received encouragement and support for their creative pursuits. Recognizing their potential, their father inspired them to focus on their artistic talents.
When my pops took me and my man to see Wild Style, we saw you in it, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm here doing an interview with you. That's real.
Deciding to drop out of school and commit to developing their craft was a crucial turning point for Nas and Jungle. Nas found himself caught between the pull of street life and the promise of a burgeoning rap career. Initially going by the name Kidwave, Nas eventually transitioned to the moniker Nasty Nas, a nod to his given name, Nasir. Fast forward a couple of years, Nas and his best friend, Ill Will, were around 16 when they had a fateful meeting with the one and only Large Professor. Large Pro was a big deal in the hip-hop production world, and he recognized Nas's raw talent right away. He brought Nas into his group, Main Source, and this connection would be a game changer for Nas. The real turning point for him came in the summer of 1991. Nas was just 17 years old and dropped a mind-blowing verse on Live at the Barbecue, a track on Main Source's LP Breaking Atoms. This wasn't just a moment in the sun. It was Nas's grand entrance into the hip-hop scene, showcasing his lyrical genius and grabbing everyone's attention. This verse wasn't just any verse. It was like Nas's official announcement announcement to the world that he was here to stay. However, life in Queensbridge wasn't all sunshine and roses. In 1992, tragedy struck close to home. Nas's best friend Ill Will and his brother Jungle were shot right in front of their block. Miraculously, Jungle survived despite taking bullets to the shoulder and leg. But the worst happened. Ill Will didn't make it, leaving Nas with a heart-wrenching loss. This wasn't just the loss of a friend. It was like losing a brother, a confidant, and a partner in crime. To honor Ill Will's memory, Nas established a record label in his name 7 years later in 1999. This traumatic event didn't just leave a mark on Nas, it was a wake-up call, a moment that pushed him to reevaluate everything. It was like the universe was forcing him to choose between getting lost in the chaos of street life or focusing on his music and making something out of his talent.
Growing up here and seeing my man that lived upstairs getting killed and then my brother shot, like, you know what I'm saying, that showed me what type of world this shit is, you know what I'm saying? Handle myself to get to a position where I could say, I'ma hold my ground. I'm old enough to control my destiny and not to be bullshit by no bullshit niggas no more.
Ultimately, Nas chose the path that aligned with his dreams. He often reflects on this decision, feeling like Ill Will is still watching over him, guiding him from above. It's as if Ill Will's spirit became a part of Nas's journey, influencing his choices and pushing him to reach for the stars. Just a few months after that pivotal moment, in mid-1992, Nas met MC Search from the group Third Bass. Search saw something special in Nas and became more than just a mentor. He became his manager and advocate. Search played a crucial role in securing Nas a record deal with Columbia Records later that year. This was a major breakthrough, opening doors for Nas in ways he had only dreamed of. Search introduced Nas to Faith Newman, who was working at Columbia at the time. She had been on the lookout for him after hearing his standout verse on Live at the Barbecue the year before. Impressed by his talent, she knew Nas was the real deal and was eager to bring him on board. In October 1992, Nas made his solo debut with the single Halftime, which was featured on Search's soundtrack for the film Zebrahead. This track wasn't just another song. It was the first track recorded for his debut album, Illmatic, which would drop 2 years later. Halftime created a buzz around Nas, cementing his reputation as a rising star in the hip-hop world. People were starting to realize that Nas wasn't just another rapper from Queensbridge. He was a force to be reckoned with. Fast forward to the next few years, and Nas's career skyrocketed. He became a legend in the rap game, earning accolades and respect from fans and critics alike. In 2012, The Source ranked him second on their Top 50 Lyricists of All Time list, and a year later, MTV placed him fourth on their annual Hottest MCs in the Game list. By 2014, About.com crowned him the greatest MC of all time. The following year, Billboard featured him on their 10 Best Rappers of All Time list. Nas wasn't just making music, he was making history. But Nas didn't stop at music. He became the associate publisher of Mass Appeal magazine, a platform for artists and creators, and co-founded its spin-off division, Mass Appeal Records. This label has signed some of the biggest names in the industry, including Dave East, Nori, Run the Jewels, and Swizz Beatz, among others. Nas has been on a roll, releasing 17 studio albums since 1994, 10 of which have achieved gold, platinum, or multi-platinum status in the US. His legacy continues to grow, and he remains a significant influence in the hip-hop community and beyond.